We're really lucky today to have this presentation brought to you by both UC Careers, and we've got the UC Careers sign here. And also, I'd like to introduce you to Simon Anderson and Karen Haigh, who are from Christchurch, New Zealand. And have any of you had any, we know we're in Christchurch, New Zealand, but there's also an organisation, Christchurch, New Zealand. Have any of you worked with Christchurch, New Zealand yet? So you'll learn a little bit more about this organisation and how they can help you as international students during the course of this. And we also have Michael Reid, who is from Skybase, a local Christchurch company. So Michael, thank you for coming along as well. He's going to bring the employer's perspective to us today. And from UC Careers, you have me, Meg Upjohn, and my colleague, Robyn Cummins. So we're both going to talk to you soon. Now, the format for today is on the board here. We've got this first hour where Robyn and I will be talking about the kind of skills that you are going to need to be able to win a job in the New Zealand market, and how we at UC Careers can help you. And then we're going to pass over to the Christchurch New Zealand team, and they're going to talk about the local economy and what you can expect is happening in this area, and just how the job market is developing. And then Michael, as I said, bringing in the employer's perspective, what employers are looking for, and he'll have some useful tips for you as well. The second, we're going to have a pizza break in the middle. Now, I'm conscious that it's Ramadan at the moment, and some people may be celebrating that and unable to eat. So the food won't be in your face. We'll have it out here. There's plenty of pizza. Enjoy it. If there's leftover, you're welcome to take some home with you afterwards. Some students may need to leave at that point, or we may have others join us at that point. Feel free to message your friends and let them know as well. Second part of this seminar will be a panel discussion with all of us, and we're open to questions from you. So this is a chance for you to just ask us anything, and we may be able to come up with other ideas at that stage as well. So before we get underway, just a few health and safety things that we need to cover off. If you haven't been in here before, you might not know our assembly area is just out here on the concrete under the clock tower, and the exits are out that door or the back door there. If you need the bathrooms, the toilets are straight down the end here. And Robyn, have I missed anything else?
No, just if we were to have a seismic event in the building, please don't try and leave the building while the building is moving. It's a stop, drop and hold.
And stay put until we give you the all clear, but we will take charge and guide you if there is any emergency. Please turn your cell phones off or write down during this event. And that's all for now. So let's get underway. I want to start off with some information about how we can help you with UC Careers. And whoa, interesting. I didn't know there was a...
I think you've put it over the top of it. You can skip on. So.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, how do you get a great job? What things are you going to need? Now, number one, you might not be aware of. Most people know that, hey, you look out for a job ad. You might not be aware of all the different places that jobs can be advertised. We can help you with that at UC Careers. We've got information that will guide you to that. But one thing you might not be aware of is that in New Zealand, we've got a kind of undercurrent way of getting jobs. And networking is so essential to that process. Not all jobs get advertised. And even the ones that do get advertised often go to somebody who is already known within the company. It might be somebody who's already done some part-time work there, or helped out short-term with a project, or volunteered with them at one stage, or somebody who came in and met them, or who was at a networking event or a professional discussion group or something like that. So that's one of the best ways you can help yourself, is try and get into the networking scene within New Zealand and within Christchurch in particular. We can help you with that. You of course need a CV, but it must be a New Zealand style CV. So what you might have brought with you from your own home country might not work in New Zealand. You need references, and you really need some New Zealand references. So do you have somebody who can say great things about how well you have worked, how reliable you have been on the job, how well you have worked with a team? It doesn't actually necessarily have to be on a job. It could be in some other activity that you've been doing in the community. But you really do need New Zealand people, because employers want to check up on the people before they hire, and they like to be able to talk English to the person they're speaking with, and they prefer it to be a local person, so somebody from New Zealand. So be thinking about that. If you don't have somebody now, can you start trying to cultivate a kind of friendship or relationship with somebody who can speak for you? It's a good idea to also have a LinkedIn profile. Does anyone here have a LinkedIn profile? Hey, that's awesome, that's great. Now those of you who don't, this is probably going to help you. So just be aware now, if you don't know what LinkedIn is, we can help you with that too. So it's really important that you're out there. Now it's not good enough just to set up a LinkedIn profile. You need a really strong LinkedIn profile, and we can show you how to do that. And then of course, if you're lucky enough to make it right through to the interview stage, you need some interview skills. You need to know, be prepared ahead of time. What kind of questions are they going to ask you? Are you ready for that, so that you can come out confidently on the spot and give the right kind of answers? So all of those things, that's what UC Careers are here for. Now this is what your CV should look like. Probably just 2 pages. Look, nice layout with bold headings and quite a lot of white space. It's not all jammed up together. You can't read the detail on this, but some of the major sections are skills, achievements, employment history, and referees. Skills. Does your CV have skills on it? Okay, what kind of skills do you need? Most employers want to see things like communication skills, teamwork, problem solving, initiative, planning and organising, self-directed learning. That means that you can learn new things all by yourself. You don't have to go along to class and have someone teach you. You might have taught yourself to play guitar, or maybe learning how to do some new, maybe a new software, computer software package or something like that. So if you've done something that you've learned all by yourself, or taken the initiative to learn online by yourself, that's worth talking about. Now, each job will want a different set of skills. Now, if you look at a job ad, you'll see what the employer is wanting, and you need to be able to address those in your CV and your cover letter. So every CV and every cover letter needs to be written just for that job. So you need to target them to show what skills you've got that are relevant to the job. So these are kind of skills that might be useful. They don't have to be skills that you got from working in a job. If you've been playing team sports, you've probably got some teamwork skills. If you were the captain of the team, or if you organised the rosters for the teams, then you might have leadership or organising skills as well. So if you have spoken at a public event, then you've probably got good communication skills. Now maybe you've even given oral presentations in class. That develops your communication skills too. If you've learned to use equipment, maybe you taught yourself, so you've got that self-directed learning, or maybe you had to learn to be extra safety conscious, or maybe you've got some good techie skills. So that's what that third picture is representing. And the bottom one down in the corner here is a shop assistant or cafe assistant. Anyone who's worked in that environment has probably developed customer skills, customer relationships, client relationships. All of that can be really good in any job that's got some kind of client interaction. So I'd like you to take a moment now to think about what skills you have got. What can you offer an employer? And then turn to the person next to you and tell them something you've done in the past, just one thing that you've done that you could write up about on your CV, or in your cover letter, or on your LinkedIn profile. Now, when you're writing about your skill, you don't just list, I got good communication skills, or I've got good technical skills. You need to tell them what type of skills you have, like communication skills. Is it good oral speaking skills or good report writing skills? And give an example of where you've used this in the past. So turn to the person next to you or behind you and tell them about one thing you've done and an example of where you use this skill. Okay, just a minute to do that right now, and you can each take a turn. Cool. Well done. So now you've probably heard of a different skill from the person next to you, and it maybe had a little chance to start thinking about what skills might you need. Chances are you don't have everything that the employer is looking for, and they don't actually expect you to be able to do everything, because after all, you're going to learn on the job as well. But what skills might you need to be able to get a foot in the door for an interview, and how can you develop those skills? Now, some ideas we can suggest are to get involved while you're here at UC, because, as I said, they don't have to be skills from on the job. You can get skills by joining clubs at UC, because clubs give you a great opportunity for teamwork. And if you get to be on the organising committee of a club, then you're going to be developing organising skills. And there's so much that you can learn from participating in clubs at UC. You can join sports teams that can be at UC or out in the community. And you can also volunteer in the community. And we have heaps of opportunities in Christchurch for you to volunteer. So take the opportunity to do more than just study, because those skills are so important in trying to get a job. One other way we can help you is through the CCR, which stands for Co-Curricular Record. Does anyone here participate in CCR? Cool. What kind of things are you doing with CCR? What are you doing?
I've just applied.
You've just applied?
Like a volunteer for the activities you had on campus.
So you're just about to start to sign up for something. That's great. And one down the back, have you joined anything yet with the CCR? You're in the Student Volunteer Army. Awesome. Has anyone else in the Student Volunteer Army or participated in any SVA activities? That's good. We have one here. Now, if you do anything with the Student Volunteer Army, you can actually claim that as part of the CCR, Co-Curricular Record. So what is CCR? It's a program to encourage students to get involved and develop all these types of skills, and it gives you recognition for the skills. So at the end, for each of the activities, you're involved for 12 hours, or maybe you only do about 8 hours of the activity and you do some writing up about it as well. And at the end, you get a certificate to show that you've done this. Now that's something you can show an employer. But most of all, in the process, we guide you to thinking about what skills you developed while you were doing that activity. And so then you've already got the words to say to an employer. You know exactly how to present your skills really impressively. So we have about 55 or 56 different activities that students can participate in as part of the CCR. Now, if you just remember CCR and Google that, or search through UC pages, you'll get to the CCR webpage where you can sign up. So we can also encourage you to participate in the seminars that we have at the UC Careers. You've already made the effort to come along to this one. Good on you. But we have lots more areas we can help with as well. Now, some of you don't have a LinkedIn profile. We've got seminars to help you with that. Some of you don't have a New Zealand style CV. We can help with that too. So these are some of the topics we cover in our seminars. CV and cover letter, LinkedIn, how to find a job, networking. As I said before, we'll help you with the networking process, and interview skills, and even negotiating your salary if you get a good job offer but you want to nudge it up a little bit higher. So all of those things we have seminars for. We also have a bunch of employers come to campus. Now, Robyn's going to talk to you about that, because Robyn is our employment coordinator and she's the expert in this area. So thanks, Robyn.
Kia ora, everybody. So yes, I'm Robyn Cummins. I'm the employment coordinator here. Can I just ask how many of you have received an email from me? How many of you have received lots of emails from me? Yeah, so you will have noticed that it's probably our best way to be communicating with you about the different opportunities that are coming up on campus. So look, they can be direct information about jobs that are now available. They can be about our careers fairs. They can be about our employer visits onto campus, which is what we're talking about here. Every year we host between 70 and 80 employers onto campus holding stand-alone presentations where they are very keen to have the opportunity to actually meet you face to face. It's a fantastic opportunity for you to do some research on the company, because it's very important when you are looking for a job that it's not just about finding a job, it's finding a job that's a good fit for you as well. And then you're more likely to be happy in that job. So we really encourage students to make the most of these opportunities to come along. The employer will talk about their organisation. They might talk about some of the work that they're offering, and they might also talk about the skills that they are particularly looking for. And as Med has mentioned earlier, it is very important to be tailoring your applications to each individual employer. They will potentially be offering some refreshments afterwards as well. Pizza seems to be the food of choice, but I do encourage you, they do remember you. They'll bring along people from their HR team who will actually be working through the applications. It's a great opportunity for you to go up, introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about yourself, and to ask any questions that you might have. Careers fairs are another opportunity to be meeting employers face to face. They're probably a bit more high intensity. There's a lot of people around you, but it's, even if you're in the first year of your study right through to postgraduate study, it's a wonderful way to come and learn a little bit more about the types of opportunities that are available to you and whether or not you think that that would be something you would be interested in. Just a wee plug for next week, we've got our STEM Careers Fair coming up on Wednesday. We've combined our ICT Fair and our Engineering and Science Fair this year. We've got 79 employers who are going to be here on campus in the engineering core and in the Ernest Rutherford building. So really encourage you to come along to that. You see Career Hub, am I okay to talk to this, Meg? Yeah, so primarily, has anybody here used it? Obviously a lot of you will have gone on to register for this event. You're aware that it's Career Hub, that you're on to do that. So primarily Career Hub is actually a jobs board. It's a consortium run by 7 of the 8 universities here in New Zealand. We work very collaboratively in finding student and graduate employment opportunities for you, and these can include part-time work, internship work, summer work, as well as full-time employment opportunities for you. So we also advertise all of our events on there, and we encourage you to go on and have a look and to register if you can. It is helpful if you do register for the employer events, please, because they often are providing catering, and we want to make sure they have enough catering for everybody. Rest assured, we don't share contact details with them when you do register, but if you're keen for them to be able to get back to you after the event, we would encourage you to share your contact details with them. You're welcome to bring a CV along to any of the employer events. Just with me talking about LinkedIn earlier as well, we had a really fantastic UC grad talking today, our lunchtime talk series that we run. And he mentioned that with LinkedIn, yes, it is a fantastic way to be recruiting, but he said it's also a fantastic way to be trying to make those connections that you think might help lead you into a role. So even if you're not wanting to message that person directly, it's a great way to be doing some research or to be finding out who perhaps you do need to talk to start that personal connection. So if there's anything that I can be helping you around employer connections, if there's a particular company that you think we should have here on campus and we haven't, I'd love to hear about it. So please do let me know. Thank you. Yes, emails, which we've already touched on. I do apologise for the volume. I do know that sometimes it can be overwhelming. I would hope that you agree that the emails that I do send through all have an employability content to them, and that they are an important way of letting you know exactly what's happening here on campus and the opportunities available. Thank you.
Cool. So another way to be aware of what's happening is to follow us on Facebook. We put our events, many of our events, but not all of them, on Facebook. So that's just another way of sharing what's happening and also keeping you sharing some tips to help you with your employment success. We also have this book, Your Guide to Job Hunting. It's available free. If you come along to our UC Careers office, you're welcome to just pick up a copy. You'll find plenty of them there. And it's also available online. You can link to it on our webpage. You can make an appointment to have one-on-one help with us. This is free. And if you go to Career Hub, you'll see the make an appointment box there. Now, sometimes you need to wait 2 weeks or so to make an appointment. So don't wait until you're just desperate to the closing date is happening tomorrow and you want someone to look at your CV now. Organise your CV and prepare for interview skills well ahead of time so that you won't be stuck so that you'll have plenty of time to have an appointment help, and try and come to seminars before that if possible. You can make an appointment or get straight into the Career Hub events list from our webpage as well. This is a picture of our webpage. And for those of you who haven't been along, we're located in the ground floor geography building right beside Cafe 101. It's actually between Cafe 101 and the new Rehua building. And we really do want to help you. So that's what we're here for. It's a free service, so do make the most of it. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn over now to our team from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Meg. Excellent. Well, thanks for having us here today. And so we're from Christchurch NZ, and so we're the economic development agency for the city. And so I guess the reason we're here to support, Karen will talk through some of our general economic information, but we're a very old city with large future labour market shortages that are being predicted. So we're really keen to support all of the excellent work that UC International do, bringing so many fantastic international students, and also that Careers do, helping prepare them for our future workforce as well. So that's sort of really why we're here, with it's part of the local government, local council essentially. So we, as I said, so we've got a long-term skills gap of 73,500 workers if our economy continues to grow at 2.4%, which is fairly likely. We're going through a bit of a transition at the moment, as we've been building a lot of infrastructure over the last 8 years after our earthquake, and we're now moving into a smarter economy. The other reason we're here, only 20% of international students stay here long-term, sort of about 33%. After 5 years and 20 after 8, so we're just really keen to help, at least make sure that we can help with the story that UC Careers are telling you in terms of the career opportunities here long term. The New Zealand workforce is really difficult to enter, as I'm sure you'll find out from, as you'll know from UC Careers, due to our unique working culture, and it is different in Christchurch compared to other parts of New Zealand as well. So New Zealand has a unique culture, but Christchurch particularly, as I'll talk about briefly in a sec. As I said, we're a really old city. We've lost about 20% of our young people in the last 20 years. So anything we can do to help support so many of you studying to stay in the community, we're here to help. So what I'm going to do is I'll just start talking about why really listening to UC Careers and using all the services that they've got is important in our city, as opposed to the economy that you've come from, because we are a little bit different. So first, I'm going to use tech just as an example industry. This is the same for all industries, but I'll just use this as an example. So in Christchurch, tech so we've got the second biggest tech sector in New Zealand. We've got 17% of tech exports, 15% of tech employment, really big growing industry. We've got 13% of the population and only 8% of the tech graduates. So we don't have enough graduates to meet our industry need, especially with the likes of CCL and Datacom all sort of doubling in size over the next year or so. 2 NZSX firms that we work with that are actually hiring unqualified workers off the street, and in some areas they'd rather not. They'd much rather hire tertiary graduates, but they have a shortage. And then when you look at the job ads, so if you look at the job ads in Canterbury, just as one snapshot in developers, there's about 42 jobs. And then you look in Wellington, which is a smaller tech sector, there's about 133 jobs. So I guess really the question is, in terms of those numbers, what do you all think that means? Does anyone here have any thoughts on that? So what we're saying is there's only about a third of the number of ads, but we've actually got a much bigger industry and a short industry. Has anyone got any ideas why that may be? No? From the panel? Any suggestions?
Maybe what Meg said earlier, I think.
They're going to people from within the company
Yeah.
and people they know. They're hiring from the careers fairs, etc. Sending offers on LinkedIn, that type of thing.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a bit, because it's what it means is that a lot of recruiting is, just reiterating what Meg was saying before, a lot of recruiting here is through networking, targeting, interning, and them hiring direct from tertiaries. So it's a very connected community where it's important to really study to maximise your employment opportunities, either direct and through UC Careers. So that sort of, because of the fact that you're not just going to be waiting for a job interview compared to other parts even of New Zealand, so it's important to go and listen to those the information about soft skills, being able to work on your communication skills, being able to network and go, particularly if there are any of those networking events, definitely go to those. And I think probably the other part of the change is we are a different sort of employment market. So a lot of our employers are more in the sort of graduate space, and they're really interested in people who connect to them and are prepared to do sort of some of the heavy lifting to approach them. So I think, Robyn was talking before about LinkedIn. Obviously, I would much rather you talk to UC Careers about how to target people, but it is an economy where if there's a business that you really specifically want to go and work for someone, you can do your homework with them online, on LinkedIn, research them, and even pick up the phone and call them. And sometimes some of them will go for a coffee with you. So it is a very connected community. And having worked overseas in Sydney and Singapore for 20 years, you couldn't do that in those economies, but here you can. So it's really important to use those services that are available and listen to UC Careers. There isn't sort of a silver bullet, so it's not a matter of just graduating and applying for jobs. So, in order to maximise your opportunities, just focus on your GPA if there's a possible internship, and if you do have an internship within your course, really make sure you use that opportunity, because I'm sure UC Careers will see that quite a lot, as if you have had an internship as part of your course, there's a good chance you'll end up working for that employer or someone else that they know as well, which was, while we've bought Michael's had some, interns in the past in his firms. And so we would just generally encourage you to really approach UC Careers with an open mind. And, I think the thing that I would leave you with is, what can be sort of cheesy or not done in your home country is not that cheesy here. So, if you look at the meetup groups, in tech as an example, the tech meetup here are all led by businesses, driven by businesses, highly organised, and that's the sorts of things you want to go to. So, we would just encourage you to listen. I won't talk through this too much because Meg sort of covered a lot of the general soft skill information. I think. So obviously, just to summarise and just reiterating what Meg was saying, so there's a number of ways you can get jobs here. So applying the traditional way, interning and volunteering, really important in Canterbury, networking, calling people out of the blue if you've done your research, and just really focus on your GPA if you haven't graduated, particularly if there's a possibility of doing an internship component. So for the purposes of time, I'll just hand over to Karen, who's going to talk about our current economy, and then we'll have time for some questions later on.
Kia ora koutou, everybody, and I just want to, following on from what Simon said, we do have a shortage as a city in terms of skills, and we're looking at probably around 40,000 skilled people over the next sort of 15 years that we're going to need. So my job here today is to encourage all of you to stay in Christchurch. We think it's an amazing place to live, and I just want to talk a little bit. I won't bore you with the details of the economy, but just sort of give you a little bit of an overview of where we're at as a city. And where some of those employment opportunities are, and then we can talk about it in more detail as well later. If you've got questions around specific industries or sort of job types, we can talk about that later as well. Oops, where am I?
Oh, they're down.
Ah.
Down there. Sorry, Karen. I'll just click on that.
Okay. So as you'll know, I won't go into Christchurch too much because you live here and you'll know a lot of this, but it is New Zealand's second biggest city, population of 381,000, and we have around 12% of the population. And some really big industries, as Simon was saying, particularly tech sector, second largest in New Zealand. Basically what we're looking at here, it's just kind of the real indicators of the economy, and we're looking here at 2018 compared to 2010. So as you'll know, we did have quite a big event here in 2011 with the earthquake, and this is just sort of showing that we're really as a city back on track and growing, and we're sort of back up above where we were before that. So GDP is up significantly, our population's grown as well. Annual earnings are up, and this jobs online index as well, so it's just sort of showing there it's a measure of the jobs that are around. So again, there are actually more jobs around now than there were back in 2010 as well. Building activity, obviously post-quake, we had a real boom in construction, lots of buildings going up. That's sort of starting to flatten off a bit now, which we'll have a look at soon with industries, but still some really significant building work going on in the city, so a lot of jobs around in those industries. Our visitor economy is doing really well as well, so domestic and international visitors choosing to come to Christchurch, and just around people coming into Christchurch as well. So the net migration is up significantly, so we've still got people, international people choosing to come and move to Christchurch, and that net inflow to Christchurch, so that's domestic as well, people choosing to come and live in Christchurch. So essentially what this is sort of showing us is that the fundamentals of our economy are sort of good and strong. So our economy is sort of heading in the right direction. In terms of cost of living, so I know sometimes as students it might be hard to believe that Christchurch is one of the more affordable cities in New Zealand. We can see there sort of 11% cheaper than Wellington, 15% cheaper than Auckland, and particularly around housing as well. So for rents, you can see there that sort of for the average rental costs per week for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment or house, $355 in Christchurch compared to sort of $480, $450 in Wellington and Auckland. So I know it might seem really expensive for you, but if you stay here and get yourselves into employment, it can be sort of a more reasonable cost of living here, and cheaper houses if you want to stay and buy a house as well. Generally as well, New Zealand is ranked second in the world for prosperity, so that's looking at sort of income and well-being, so quality of life and income. So generally speaking, the country as a whole has quite a good level of prosperity, and then Christchurch obviously is a bit more affordable than other cities as well. This is really just looking at our economy, and you can see here that our economy is quite broad. And what we've got, the dark red is showing Canterbury's economies in those industries, comparing it to the national. So we can see that in most of those key industries, our growth is actually above that nationally. So generally sort of all of those key industries showing quite good strength as an economy. But as Simon has said, we do need more people here in Christchurch. And we'll have a look at some of the reasons why in a second. So where are those employment opportunities? If we have a look at this graph here, what it's sort of showing, if we look at the blue or the sort of teal colour there, that's the number of people that were in employment in those industries in 2015. The red bar is showing how many of those people are going to retire by 2025. So that's part of the reason that we need more people to stay and work here. As Simon said, our population's getting older. We've got these people retiring. We need to replace them. And we can, I'm not sure if we can make this available to those that have come. It does have numbers in there as well. So you can actually sort of see in real terms how many jobs there are going to be there. The dark blue as well, that just sort of shows growth. So if we continue growing our economy as we are, then we need that many more people as well. So really that sort of red and blue indicates how many more people we'll need to replace those that are retiring, and also for growth in those industries. You can see, I mean, you've probably noticed the only one that's going backwards looking here is construction. And that's really just because there was such a boom. So back in 2015, we really did have so many people working in that industry. So it doesn't mean that the industries, you know, there's not going to be an industry. It's just that sort of compared to that boom back when this was measured in 2015, it's going to be a bit less than that.
Just one other thing on the slide, I'll just interrupt as well, is the other good thing about entering the local workforce now is it means with all those sort of people retiring that it's much more likely you're going to move up quicker into higher level management positions. That's the only other thing I would say.
Yeah, I'll just add to that as well that you know, something that we hear quite a lot from businesses and from sort of graduates that go into those businesses, that because Christchurch has a lot of small to sort of medium-sized businesses compared to other big cities like Auckland or perhaps, you know, Sydney or Melbourne or other international cities that have a lot of big corporations, big organisations, that often in those big cities with big organisations, you go into roles that are really sort of a defined role where you're in your spot, and you might have to work for quite a long time to sort of move up or get experience in other fields. And with Christchurch being sort of a smaller economy, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses here, that sort of graduates can have a lot of opportunities going into those smaller businesses. The roles tend to be more varied, so you're not just doing one task. You sort of you might be doing a bit of marketing and a bit of business and a bit of admin, and so you can sort of develop those skills more quickly, and more opportunity to kind of move up or move into different roles as well. So what I want to just sort of talk a little bit about as well is a project that we're working on. So as Simon said, Christchurch NZ is the city's economic development agency. And in terms of the economy here in the city, you saw from the graph before, it's quite broad. We have sort of quite a varied economy. And what we want to do is really look at what are the opportunities for Christchurch in the future. So when we look at sort of global growth opportunities, global growth industries, what's our local capability and local advantage? And then what's that kind of spot in the middle? What could Christchurch be really famous for and really have strong industries in the future? So we've done some work to try to identify what some future industries for Christchurch might be. Other cities around the world are doing similar sorts of projects. So Canada has a big one that they're calling superclusters. Utah, Eindhoven, they sort of are doing the same thing, identifying future industries that they want their cities to be, strong industries for their city, and sort of to attract talent and young people into those industries. And the work that we've done so far, so we're working sort of government, local industry and education providers. So University of Canterbury is really involved in this project. And we've identified that these are sort of some industries that Christchurch could really see some big opportunities for in the future. So we've got future transport and aerospace, health tech and well-being, food, fibre, agri-tech, and high-tech services as a sort of enabler for those industries. So we're working really closely with, as I said, universities and education providers here and local businesses to really sort of focusing on these industries, try to see what opportunities there are and really focus on growing those industries for Christchurch. We are in the process, it's sort of a developing project, we're in the process of putting together a site, which you'll see at the top there is supernode.co.nz, so we're calling these industries Supernotes for Christchurch, and we will have this website up which will detail what the opportunities are in those different industries, particularly around sort of job opportunities and skills. So what sorts of skills are we going to need in the aerospace industry? It's not going to be all astronauts, there's going to be all sorts of different types of skills and talent that we're going to need to grow those industries. So that's sort of something to keep an eye on and check out sort of over the future, and we'll be populating that with a lot of information around opportunities in those industries as well. And I think that might have been me. So, but yeah, any questions specifically around industries, we'll be here after in the next session to talk about any questions you might have.
My name's Michael Reid. I'm CEO and founder of Skybase. We're a startup here in Christchurch, and I wanted to give you, I guess, a little bit of a background into some of the things that, firstly, what we do and a bit of context, but also more importantly, how you can fit in to the environment here in Christchurch and New Zealand, and some tips based on what we've experienced. What we generally believe and where we're going is, in your lifetimes, expect to fly vast distances, perhaps across the Pacific or the Indian Ocean, with no pilots on board. And that's the area of technology that we're focused on. And in aviation, things happen slowly, so you have to do it bit by bit. So we're talking about these growth industries here in Christchurch. Aerospace is one of those, and that's to match up with that long-term vision. So what we do at Skybase, we do technology development, and I touched on sort of where we're going long-term with aviation, and we actually do that with drones. So starting with aviation, you've got to start small. So everything, to get big, you have to start small. And so that's what we're doing here. We're taking all of that technology and putting it inside drones and getting drones to fly where you can't see them. So that's really the core of what we do. However, to fund that business, we also have an aerial mapping business and a surveillance business. So MapBits does maps and Real-Time does surveillance, and we work with New Zealand Police on that. Cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this picture here. So this is a road, one of the major roads on the South Island here in New Zealand. It's really important to understand contextually where New Zealanders are placed in the world. There's a strong connection to the geography here, and that needs to really be understood before you can meaningfully engage. So this is a major road. You'll notice there are there's no verge on the side of the road. It's 2 lanes, cars going at 100 kilometres an hour each way. It's often icy and snowy. What that's actually a reflection of is how this country has come to be. You've had a very small group of people work really hard to make what infrastructure there is. And it's at an interesting turning point now where there's actually not a huge amount of money going into infrastructure, because they're keeping it just at the right level until we can grow the populations and bring in all of those brains, and then ultimately grow out the infrastructure. And that takes time, takes decades. And we've already talked about the employment shortage here in Christchurch. That's actually nationwide. And it's really important that we're able to attract people to stay here and to contribute to growing the country from actually just a pure infrastructure level. So that's Christchurch from the air. It's a good-sized city. There are plenty of opportunities here in Christchurch. It's a smaller version of any other big city in the world, and that brings with it a lot of key advantages. Firstly, it's easy to get around. It's a great standard of living. But most importantly, it's been touched on a few times, is about the networking. There's that old saying, many people would rather be a big fish in a little pond than a big fish in a big pond, because obviously you get noticed. So that's a really key advantage about being here in Christchurch, is you can get noticed more easily, but you have to go and do the hard work and go and meet people, put yourself out there, do all of the things that have been suggested, join the clubs, start networking on LinkedIn, and start contributing. So you've got to give before you can get. And that's really how actually New Zealand works. People will invite you out for coffees, you might need to invite them out for coffees, and start to get to know people, because one thing that in a population, so let's say in a city of 5 or 10 million people, like many of you guys will be from those sort of cities, that they say it's 7 degrees of separation between person A and person B. In Christchurch, maybe 2 degrees of separation. Everyone knows everyone. So that's why it's a little bit like being in a family. And so that's where your reputation is very, very important, and the way in which you treat people, and the way, I guess, you handle yourself professionally, and your delivery, most importantly, you actually do what you say you're going to do. That is really, really important for employees, and particularly startups where there's not a lot of money to go around, so you've got to have people that actually do what they say they're going to do. This here is something that Skybase is part of, Christchurch Aerospace Centre, and this is one of the growth industries here in Christchurch and is going to be in New Zealand. New Zealand's very, very well placed to grow the aerospace industry globally. The reason is that we have excellent regulations here in New Zealand to allow the aerospace industry to flourish. And we work, just my little startup, we work with companies in China, India, USA, Germany. And we're a New Zealand company, a tiny, tiny, tiny little company in New Zealand. So this is still a global economy. And Christchurch Aerospace Centre was set up to bring the small aerospace industry together and start promoting it, because from little things, big things grow. And by the end of this year, we'll be basically launching satellites from a rocket-powered UAV just south of Christchurch here. So that's a really exciting, think of all the ancillary skills and industries that go into that. And that's what's happening here in New Zealand, and we can do that here because of the environment, because of the people, and because of the regulations. Okay, so this has been touched on. This is to show that you have to wear many hats. A startup is representative of actually a lot of businesses in Christchurch and in New Zealand generally. You have to be, I look at myself, yes, I'm the founder, so I do everything from marketing, sales, engineering. I sometimes go out and operate drones. I do administration. I do everything. But we also have lots of other people in the company that also do everything. And that's because you need to be flexible and adaptable. New Zealand is a very small economy by world standards. And that means that, even though it punches above its weight, particularly with technology, it means that you have to go into a business and be able to say, hey, I've got this core skill set. I'm really, really good at this particular skill. Oh, but by the way, I can help you with this and I can help you with that. But even if I don't know how to do that, I'm going to go and learn how to do it so I can help you. And it's really that flexibility is the ability, to wear many hats, and that's what we're looking for. Now, Barty, I'll show you a little bit about my history in a moment. She was my first employee into Skybase. First, I guess, person involved in Skybase. She's got another job that she works at the moment. But she was also my second employee, where I used to work at Martin Jetpack, which is another aerospace company. When she came to me for a job in 2015, she had spent maybe 2 years in New Zealand. She'd had a very short-term job with one company that was in medical technology, and then she had a baby, and then she was wanting to re-enter the workforce. She had a little bit of a network, and but she had some really great skills. But the thing that really impressed me about Barty was her attitude, and she, when I said to her, how good are you with Microsoft Excel? She said, I'm awesome. I'm like, that's great. You know, you back yourself. You know what you're good at, and she was able to do all of the things that we needed for her to do. She was a technical writer, so she worked a lot gathering up all of the engineering information and the flying information and putting it into documents. But she also helped with being out in the field, you know, holding bits of equipment or helping in any other way that the company needed. She was very, very versatile, and she did extremely well at the company. And then she left to go and get another more high-paying job as the company ran out of money. And then bringing her into, she helped me get Skybase started. And again, that comes back to the ability to wear many hats. And she's a really good example of someone who had come from another country with some core skill sets, only a small network, but she really fostered the networking, and I was able to pick up the phone to her references, and you know, as was touched on, you know, the references spoke English, and I was able to get all of that background information, and it was a really, really successful employment. All right, I'm just going to talk a little bit about culture. A lot of people don't sense the subtleties of New Zealand or Australian culture. It's very sports and activity centric up the top there, but it's also very history and events centric. So I'll talk through. There's rugby, that's really important. There's cricket, that's really, really important. There are the activities that you do out in nature here in New Zealand, and particularly Christchurch. That's Taylor's mistake. Or, say, for example, going up to the snow. There are lots of other activities. There's sailing, there's mountain biking, you know, kayaking, so many things that you can do here. And that engagement with the environment around you, going back to that earlier slide about how New Zealand was shaped by the environment, is really important to understand when you go to enter the workforce, because they want to see that you are engaged in the community, because it's not a big enough community for people to be isolated. We all need to be working together, because when things go wrong, you know, down there, obviously the terrorist attack on the 15th, when things go wrong, we bond together, we need to be together, because we're not big enough to be isolated. So it's really important that you get into the community. The other couple of things here, so that is the night noodle markets in Haigh Park, and then it's actually a picture of my kids doing the Holly Festival this year. So what that I'm trying to show here is this is not purely a Western culture that we have here. There are lots of different people here that make up our culture, but it's having a good understanding and that good involvement with all of that that will really make you fit in. And then I actually spoke to Barty last night, and she said, make sure you convey the fact that to really succeed here in New Zealand, you have to live the culture. And that's, I guess, what we do. I'm just going to show a little video. So this is, I guess this is a little bit about what we do, and I'll talk through the video. I'll just turn down the sound. So last year we set up down a few hours south of here a network operations centre where we invited the who's who of government in New Zealand. We had the Vice Chief of Defence Force, we had the Chief of Fire and Emergency, the Director of Civil Aviation, Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. The list went on and on of all the people that were at this particular demonstration. The reason I'm telling you this is because of that comment I made about being a big fish in a small bowl. You'd much rather be a big fish in a small bowl than a big fish in a big bowl, or a normal sized fish in a big bowl. So what we were able to do is bring in the best people from not only around New Zealand, but around the world to do this demonstration. And this stuff had never been done on the planet before. Obviously the military does something a bit different, but to do this commercially, this was the first commercial demonstration of this technology anywhere on the planet. And it was very, very successful. So we demonstrated the fact that it can be used in policing. So that's a scenario we ran with taking over a bikie gang and working with the police. Obviously, we worked with the New Zealand Police. Then we ran a scenario with working search and rescue, looking for someone, and using a lot of the technology that we've brought in from around the world and in the process of commercialising here. Cool. So this is a picture of the pilots and engineers that we have in the team, and we are actively looking to, I guess, diversify. And what I mean by that is we have a number of females that work in admin, marketing, and GIS, so working with maps and whatnot. But we're also looking for people from different cultural backgrounds to, again, enrich that experience, because otherwise you end up a bit narrow focused. So we are representative of a lot of New Zealand businesses in the sense that yep, we've come from a certain place, but we're looking for new skill sets, looking for people with new ideas, but looking for people with a particular attitude of, I'm going to get this done. That's really, really important. A little bit about my background. I'm ex-Australian Air Force, and Alex is over in the States, and he's a very accomplished engineer, so I won't go too much into the detail there. So being Kiwi job ready, just a quick summary. It's a small economy, and so you've got to be flexible. You've got to be able to wear many hats and bring your best skill set, but also bring some other things. And if you don't have that skill set, say, I'll learn how to do it at my cost. Know the cultural norms. You need to be able to fit in. It's like going into any new culture. You need to understand the cultural norms. We have our own, and in the same way that when we work overseas, you have to fit in. It's a status quo. And this, I mean, I can't emphasise enough how important it is to keep networking. It is so important, and you need people to be able to vouch for you, to say, hey, I know that person and whatnot. Everyone knows everyone. In fact, a little anecdote, I had an email out of the blue today via LinkedIn and then via our info email for someone who is really interested in what we're doing. And I play poker with his old boss. And so I know straight away that I'm going to be able to go and get a reference and check out what they really like, because it's such a small community, and that's really important to remember. Most importantly, have a good time, because it's great. Thanks very much. Any questions?